But that result also was also represented by another important outcome, which outcome was that for the first time, as South Africans, we agreed on a common vision about what South Africa should be. I'm referring here to our national constitution. That national constitution, as I'm sure all of us know, bears the very heavy imprint of the vision and the values which Nelson Mandela and his generation stood for. It was good that in the end, all of us as South Africans agreed. All of us agreed that these things that they've been talking about a non-racial South Africa and non-sexist South Africa, a South Africa that would address the injustices of the past, a South Africa which would ensure that we all live in reconciliation, we unite as one people. It was good that in the end, the entirety of our people agreed that this was a vision that all of us shared. And hence, we adopted our national constitution, which is the property of all South Africans, not the property of any particular political party. Thank you indeed to Nelson Mandela and this generation that they could do that. That out of the centuries of division among the people of South Africa, of conflict over centuries, it was at last possible that we could come together as a people and say, we have got a common view about what our country should be. Quite correctly, it is now being said that rather than mourn the departure of Nelson Mandela, we should celebrate his life. It's correct. It's correct. We should celebrate his life. But I don't think we should end there. Indeed, we should celebrate his life, but we must also ask ourselves a question about what about the future. It surely can't be enough that we merely celebrate the past, because to celebrate his life is to celebrate the past. But it's necessary that we ask ourselves the question, what did he stand for? What legacy did he leave behind? And what do we do about that legacy? So, Chief Rabbi, I think it is necessary that we indeed must reflect on the future. And indeed, that may very well be the most important part of the celebration of the life of Nelson Mandela, that serious reflection as a nation, that serious reflection about our future. And I think our starting point, the Constitution, would be a good starting point. To say here is a compact that we've reached among ourselves as South Africans, born out of the struggles that Nelson Mandela and the others waged. In terms of its goals, what it says, we must ask ourselves a question as we celebrate his life, and therefore look very closely at the question as to what do we do about his legacy. To ask ourselves the question, what are we doing with regard to the goals which are contained in that Constitution. How far are we, after 20 years almost of democracy, how far are we in terms of creating a non-racial society? How far are we with regard to achieving the goal of national reconciliation? How far are we in terms of creating a non-sexist South Africa? A prosperous South Africa of a shared wealth among our people, eradication of poverty. Where are we? What did we do in the past with regard to this matter, all these matters? And what should we do next to accelerate progress towards the achievement of these goals that are contained in our Constitution? I think we should ask ourselves the question, how loyal are we to the values that Nelson Mandela represented? Not in terms of what we say, but in terms of what we do. Do these values continue to inspire the manner in which we act, the manner in which we approach the common tasks that all of us face to build a better South Africa? I think to celebrate his life properly, we need to ask ourselves a question about the quality of leadership. To say, to what extent are we measuring up to the standard they set in terms of the quality of leadership? The task of the transformation of South Africa is a very difficult task. I think in many respects more difficult than the struggle to end the system of apartheid. And surely that must mean that therefore this challenge of leadership becomes much more important, much more complex in the context of what needs to be done. Are we in whatever echelon of our society, whatever we're doing in politics, in business, in the unions, in civil society, among our religious communities, among the youth and the women and so on, do we have the quality of leadership such as was exemplified by Mandela and others, sufficient to respond to the challenges that we face? I think as we celebrate the life of Nelson Mandela, this becomes a central task, that we reflect on what needs to be done to sustain his legacy, to ensure that we do not betray what he and others sacrificed for, what he and others stood for. And I would really hope that if we as a country can do that, that we as a country indeed should do it. And that out of that dialogue throughout the country, involving all of us, we might be able together not only to say we have a common vision as represented in that Constitution, but we also have a common roadmap as to what we do to make sure that all these agreed goals, born of the struggle in which Nelson Mandela, his comrades and others, black and white. All of these people who are our heroes and heroines, Nelson Mandela, Chief Lutuli, Ahmed Kathrada, Yusuf Dadru, Joe Slovo, Arthur Charles Kelson, Ram Fisher, Lillian Goy, Ruth First, Mike Hamel, many people. What is it that we do as we celebrate Nelson Mandela's life to ensure that the things that we do not betray this noble legacy which they left behind? May Nelson Mandela rest in peace. Thank you very much.
Know more about your world.
enca.com